Ladies and gents, boys and girls, Duggars and Digettes of all ages, your mans is here, Dak908 aka the Dig Dug himself, and we are going to take a good look. Well, I mean, hold on, we're gonna take a decent look, not a good look. A good hard look will be a video much later down the line, but we're gonna take a good look. A relatively decent look. I mean, we looked at it, but we didn't like make super prolonged eye contact. But we're going to talk today about the Diablos. Now, my people are telling me right now in my ear that Diablos is actually female and Monoblos is male. I'm going to call it a male anyway, because that's just how I get down regardless. Yo, again, let me see them triggers. I'm about to pull them. Anyway, Diablos is back. Diablos has been another very, very long-standing monster in the Monster Hunter series, making its debut in the first generation of Monster Hunter, aka the first game of Monster Hunter, way back in 2000, like 5, 4, 6? I can't remember. It's been a long time. But Diablos has always been a mainstay, and due in part that it's just a damn good fight. Excuse my Portuguese there, but it really is. It's one of the tougher monsters to actually fight, period, in all of Monster Hunter, and it's always a monster that tends to really give me a bit of trouble. And truth be told, it was my first original wall of a monster. It was the first monster that I've ever fought in my entire life where I would time out. I wouldn't triple cart, but I would time out. I just couldn't do the damage in time, and I've always liked it because of it, and it's also one of my favorite monsters of all time. I just didn't actually list it in my top 10. I did put it in my top 10. It made my top 10. I think it was like number 3 or something like that. But anyway, Diablos. Let's look at Diablos in this game. Diablos has changed a little bit, not a whole lot, but a decent amount. You know, you can kind of see what's new, kind of see what's old, kind of see, you know, everything all together. But as it stands, one thing to quickly note about Diablos, the one thing that made Diablos such a huge deal was the fact that Diablos was the closest thing to a brute wyvern as a flying wyvern could possibly get, without actually being a brute wyvern. That being the fact that it rages all the time. It gets very mad and it charges you down and runs you down and beats you up with, well, just that, it just beats you up. It does not have a breath attack, anything like that. There's no special attributes of the Diablos outside of the fact that it can dig, and it will use its digging abilities to actually do the real work against you if need be, and that need is like all the time because it will dig and it likes to dig. But speaking of dig, the Diablos can only dig. Actually, no, let's back there. That sentence is wrong. The Diablos will dig, and then you can actually bring the Diablos up from the ground with what used to be a sonic bomb, but now in this game a screamer pod. If you select this quest from the assigned list, it will give you, I believe, 3 screamer pods in the base camp, and that's what I chose to do. I chose to get those screamer pods, and I use those to actually make sure that Diablos, when it does dig underground, if you shoot the screamer pod, it pops up like, rah, oh my gosh, you know, the really loud noises pick it up. You can use, if you have a hunting horn, if you use the sonic wave song, it will do the same exact thing if Diablos is digging. However, one small caveat to that is if the Diablos is enraged, it will not be susceptible to these types of loud, high frequency things. So if you were to throw a sonic bomb, or I'm just gonna call it a sonic bomb, it's too much to transition, I'm sorry. 10 years of calling it sonic bombs and like a week of calling it screamer pod. Is called a screamer pod? Sonic pod? Whatever. You see what I mean? Regardless, if you do it and it's enraged, it will not come up for you. It's a waste of your time. And that's one thing I really want to talk about. I actually mentioned that whole thing there to bring up the fact that Diablos just seems to not be that angry anymore. Am I bugging? Dead serious. Okay, I know this is a video where I give you guys like tips and tricks and everything how to get it done, so that way when you go fight him, you kind of understand. You can kind of go in there and get the job done yourself. But I'm asking you guys a dead serious, honest to God question, straight from the heart of the Dig Dug himself. Is it just me, or does Diablos not get mad as often anymore? Like, I'm dead serious asking this. I mean that with all my heart and soul, because Diablos was definitely, like I said, a monster that was the closest thing to a brute wyvern that a flying wyvern could actually get, because it got so angry so often and all the time, and for great periods of time. Now, understand that there's a particular in this game also, so if you already know what I'm talking about, let's not bring that up for the sake of spoilers. But there's that, so I already know the literal main difference between that and this is a particular thing that we're not gonna talk about. That I know some of you guys know what I'm talking about, but we're just not gonna talk about it. Don't mention it. Spoilers. We're not gonna talk about that. But let me know if Diablos just seems to be getting not as angry. Anyway, I'm sorry for the long delay, everyone. I apologize. Let's actually get into the main reason of this video. Okay, so the Diablos. The one thing the Diablos really likes to do, like I said before, is dig. The dig attack from the Diablos, it takes a little longer to actually do. Not necessarily a little longer to do. It will dig, but the coming up will take a little bit longer. And the fact that I will say it's definitely the graphics. Now, since the graphics are so much better on the consoles, you can see, like easily see the digging trail of the Diablo, so that way you can actually make adjustments to it where you have to either dodge from left to right or just, take it on if you're gonna block it or whatever. The issue though is this is one of his strongest attacks, period. So if you actually get hit with this attack, and if you're not blocking, you probably will cart. This is a one-hit attack. Not necessarily 9 times out of 10, but if you're slipping, you're done. Okay, dead serious. So if you have at like let's say if you have 60% health, you're dead. Okay, you are cart city, son. Them cats is picking you up. Okay, it's a very strong attack, so please watch out for it. Understand that if it's going to dig, it will almost not always do a quick dive, is what I like to call it. Quick dive is when it digs under the ground and comes right back up. It will save that for when it is tired, because normally it likes to travel when it's digging, so that way, if you're running away, it's going to come towards you. Now, the quick dive, like I said before, is an attack that it will do when it's tired, because when it's tired, it will attempt to dig, but it will have not enough stamina to actually travel, so it would actually come right back up where it is. So if I were you, I'd actually take a note of this, and if you're smart about it, you would use the Screaming Pod when the Diablos is tired, when it tries to dig, so that way it stays under the ground for you to beat it up a lot longer. Because one thing did change from it though. If you were to use the Screaming Pod as it digs, the time in which it's actually stuck under the ground is not as long as it used to be. So that's actually a good thing, because back in the day, people used to seriously abuse that with the Diablos, making it a very easy fight. Now, with the digging attacks and things like that out of the way, it is also a monster that likes to charge quite a bit. Its horns, whether you break them or not, matters not to it, because it will still charge you and do the same amount of damage. So the charging attack from Diablos is one of his main key attacks. So if I were you, I would try not to really go head on with it. It hurts a lot. I mean, it kind of reminds me of the Raytheon, because it does have a charge attack where it will do it 3 times, and it'll go in one direction, turn around, come the other direction, turn around, and go in another direction. And at the very end of that third attack, it will do like a head thrust up animation, to where it's signifying, basically to me anyway, that it is done charging, and you can please come hit me while I'm trying to regather my thoughts or something like that. So honestly, the big issue, the big problem for Diablos is the fact that it is very telegraphable. I mean, it is literally a stoplight. Like, it's red light, green light. You see it doing some stuff, you have to do A, get out of the way, B, guard. And then after it gets done doing that thing, its recovery on most of its attacks is actually very long, so that's when your green light comes in and you're free to wail on it. But also remember that it is a very, very hard hitting monster. There's no way to get around it. I mean, Diablos always has hit hard. There's no love taps to Diablos. One of the one of the key things for Diablos in terms of its own defense that you should probably watch out for is when it does do the charging attack and it's done, one thing it will do is it'll actually slam its tail down behind it, because it knows that it's highly telegraphable, so it needs to, I guess, save itself in one way or another, and that's by throwing its tail, well, not throwing it, but slamming its tail down behind it, so that way if you are chasing it, you will get hit with that. And honestly, there's a lot more to the Diablos, but just be very wary of what it does. The digging is one of your biggest concerns. If you see it dig, you have your options are quite limited, but you need to act very quickly on what your options are. You can either use the Sonic Pod, get out of the way, or block it, and then hope for the best once it actually recovers from that. Other than that, it will actually just charge you for the most part. It doesn't really have a wide variety of attacks. It's really just charging and digging. So if you can actually figure out what it's going to do on both those two things, you should be in relatively good hands. Now, I'm speaking now, and I'm looking at the video, and we're actually out of time. So I will say this. This was a hunt that I've done for the very first time with a whole bunch of friends online, and I won't be doing this very often. They just really wanted to play with me, and I guess I wanted to accommodate. And lastly, what we will quickly talk about before we actually really go is the armor and things like that for the Diablos while we have a little bit of time left. I'm talking very fast now, aren't we? Anyway, so we're looking at Diablos Power. I'm gonna slow it down. It gives you Bludgeoner. It is a set skill, obviously. It is the ability that actually increases your attack the lower your sharpness on your weapon gets. The key sharpness you want to actually be in, though, is green. Anything lower than that, yes, your attack will get higher, but then again, you're bouncing off of monsters, not really doing yourself any real help anyway. Next, we're looking at Critical Draw. Critical Draw is an amazingly good skill. It increases the affinity when performing draw attacks, and right off the rip, it's going to give you 30%. Max out, it gives you 100% affinity, meaning it will... Okay, this thing I should clarify really quickly. If your weapon has negative 20 affinity, and you have maximum Critical Draw, your affinity on that draw will be 80. It does not make it 100%, like a full-on crit every time. It just increases the affinity by 100%. That should be clarified right off the rip. Next, we're looking at Slugger. makes it easy to stun monsters. Your stun power is your first level is 10%, which is very good for hammer users and things like that. Next, we're looking at heroics, which is an amazing skill. It increases the attack power and defense when your health drops below 35% or lower. Now, this is a very, very dangerous skill to use, but it's one of my favorite skills because I like to play a little bit reckless, and this allows for people who do play reckless to actually benefit from it because they themselves can actually have a huge attack bonus if they decide to actually play this well. Off the rip though, while it activates, it increases your attack by 5% and increases a defense by 15 points. Now the percentile thing is a big thing because if your attack is, let's say, I don't know, like 500, it's gonna give you 50 attack. It's 5%. It's not a set number. It's a percentile, which is actually really good for people who like to get the most out of the stuff because set numbers are bad. Percentages are very good. Marathon Runner. It reduces the continuous stamina depletion by 15%. Makes you run for mad long. Next, we're looking at Tremor Resistance. Nullifies minor ground tremors. I'm not sure exactly what constitutes a minor ground tremor, but you just kind of want to get to the point where you get to level 3 so that way it nullifies tremors altogether. But lastly, I will talk about his armor. No, excuse me, his armor, his weapons. Weapons, very, very strong weapons. High raw for what they are. The biggest issue I have with him though is that there's no greatsword, which used to be a mainstay for like a billion years. But anyway, with that being said, everyone, wow, I had to wrap that up really, really quickly. It's been your boy Dak908, aka the Dig Dug himself. I will see you guys in the next video, and that video is Zor Magdaros. Whew, I am winded and tired. Wow, I had to do that really quickly, didn't I? I apologize, everyone, but, you know, take care.